Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome in to another edition of Tider Insider TV, brought to you, as mentioned, by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Visit Tuscaloosa.com. I'm Gary Harris, along with Rodney Orr from Tider Insider. When Keelon Russell arrived in Tuscaloosa, Rodney, you wrote that January 12th, there were some that weren't sure how well he would recruit at Alabama, including you. But the last 3 weeks or so have felt a lot like the Nick Saban heyday, you wrote, when Alabama was just pulling in just about every top recruit that the Tide wanted. This past weekend was a epic official visit weekend. In fact, assistant coach Maurice Linguist said it would be legendary, and Alabama did get a commitment on Saturday night at a recruiting function. 2025 four-star in-state offensive lineman Micah Debose from legendary Vigor High School in Pritchard, 6'5", 320 pounds, chose Alabama over offers from LSU, Ohio State, Florida, Auburn, and others. And Rodney, let's start right there, because we're still expecting a lot of fireworks this week. But as of right now, it's only Micah Debose. He's the only commit to come out of this legendary recruiting weekend.
Yeah, look, I think when you look at Micah Debose, you talk to people who played the game, played the position. They think he's got a lot of potential. You see his feet there. You see the way he moves. Again, he's a young player. He's got to develop physically, but he does have all the tools. You know, when he gets in this nutrition program, the strength and conditioning, David Ballou, they'll get him where he needs to be physically. So he's a guy that goes, this is an extremely highly regarded offensive line class. He's another part of it. We saw the commitments from the other guys. You know, Michael Carroll from Doylestown, Pennsylvania, Mal Waldrop from Phoenix City, and then they go to California to get Jackson Lloyd. Then they come back to the state of Alabama and get Micah Debose. So they're recruiting coast to coast and doing extremely well.
As far as this offensive line class is concerned, they wanted to get the numbers up, and I think, quite honestly, they're looking to recruit a little different style of offensive lineman in terms of maybe not being quite as big in the past, certainly big enough, but they want some athleticism. They want guys that can move. But right now on paper, and they're not done, this is, you know, a pretty good-looking offensive line class. Where does it compare in your mind to some of the ones that Saban pulled in?
Well, now they pulled in some really good ones, obviously. I think, though, when you look at this has a chance to be very similar. I mean, when you talk about the rankings, because there's two guys, when you look at some of the rankings, again, it depends on who you follow in terms of those networks, but you've got Michael Carroll and Jackson Lloyd both rated among the top 35 prospects in the country. I'm not talking about top 35 offensive linemen. I'm talking about the top 35 overall. It's really impressive. So those guys both have an opportunity to be, you know, five-star players. They have some other guys that they're recruiting. I know we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. But I think it's got a chance to be a fantastic offensive line class, one of the better ones they've had.
All right, that was the only commit to come out of the weekend so far. 13 official visitors were in, and now we're on commitment watch, Rodney. Let's start with Dawson Merritt, the outside linebacker out of the Kansas City area. We're expecting any time. Nebraska is his other finalist, but if you know, it's expected to be Alabama, and I keep thinking we're going to, you know, get up and there's going to be news that he's committed to the Crimson Tide. When do you think this could happen?
Look, I'm with you. I thought it could happen last week. I thought it would probably have already happened. But again, I think it, obviously, like you said, it's Alabama and Nebraska. Those are the final two. Again, I'll say this. Matt Rule and his staff have done a fantastic job at Nebraska closing the gap in this recruitment. But I still think, you know, the overriding feeling is that Dawson Merritt, this is the spot for him here in Tuscaloosa. So when, I don't really know, but at this moment, I still feel really good about Alabama.
All right, big news today. And again, I want to preface my comments by saying these projections get everybody fired up, and you start thinking there's going to be a commitment right away. That's not the case. Caleb Cunningham, for instance, just announced today a Final Six. He was on the game with Ryan Fowler on Tide 100.9 FM yesterday. Said he's not anywhere close to committing, and everyone had projected him to Alabama. So be clear on that. These recruiting sites, they're trying to get eyeballs. They're trying to get members. But today, Steve Wilfong from On3 projected a Keelon Deere, the outstanding running back out of Quitman, Mississippi, some having rated as the #1 running back in the country, to flip from Alabama, or from Ole Miss to Alabama.
Well, you know, again, you're talking about Caleb Cunningham, one of the top wide receivers from the state of Mississippi. This is one of the top running backs from the state of Mississippi. These are two extraordinarily talented players. I really like A.K. Deere. He's got a tremendous amount of speed. I think he's a guy to be a great fit in this offense. Again, Gary, I say this. How many years have we covered this? Many, many years. How many times have we seen kids from Mississippi waffle back and forth and end up staying in the state? This is going to be a real battle for these guys in that state of Mississippi, but I do like where Alabama stands with both of them right now.
Back to the offensive line. Ty Haywood projected by most of the recruiting services to Alabama, the 5-star out of Denton, Texas. You think we might get some news on him this week?
Well, it's possible, and I think, again, we've talked about this great offensive line class they're putting together. This is another one of the key pieces right here. This is the final key piece, I think. Ty Haywood, a fantastic offensive line prospect, offensive tackle from Denton, Bryne, as you see there, high school. Gary, he might be the #1 offensive tackle in the country. Alabama, Oklahoma, Florida State. Alabama did an incredible job with him on his official visit a couple of weeks ago. We'll see. Could happen really soon, or he may wait a couple of weeks. But I do feel very good about where Alabama is today.
All right, Mission Vallejo cornerback Dejon Lee has a date set. It's this Friday, and the expectation on Lee is that he's going to commit to the Crimson Tide.
You know, once again, another 5-star rated player. He's a nearly 6'4" corner. That's a rarity. But, you know, again, a lot of the top programs in the country, Georgia's been in there really strong, Texas A&M, Oregon, all of these schools coast to coast have recruited Dejon Lee very heavily. He made a visit here this past weekend, his official visit. And you know what? Feel really good about what he's going to say on Friday. I feel it's going to be Alabama.
All right, one final note before we get to Keelon Russell, and that is that we mentioned Caleb Cunningham, the wide receiver out of Mississippi, projected to Alabama, but he came out with a finalist list today. It may very well wind up being Alabama, but let's be honest, every place he's visited, he's come out of that weekend saying, this is my team. So I don't want to curb anybody's enthusiasm, but I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit on him. I just get the impression that nothing is going to happen anytime soon with him.
It's unpredictable. And again, that's kind of what we warn the people on TiderInsider.com once again today. You know, there's an unpredictability factor here with these kids, especially, again, in Mississippi. There's a lot of pressure there. We'll see what happens.
And Dejon Lee Friday at 1:30 Central Time on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. Alabama has 9 commits in the month of June, 18 overall. Rodney, you mentioned last week, you know, they may wind up signing between 25 and 30. They're up now in the top 5 and in position to make a run at the #1 ranked recruiting class.
Yeah, I think one of the services has them 2, one has them 3. They're certainly up there very high. And, you know, they've got a lot of other top prospects still on the board. And I tell you, Gary, you know, here's the thing about it. Alabama has been the hottest team in the country in June. It's been phenomenal.
I told you last week to watch Keelon Russell at the Elite 11, did I not?
You did.
And listen, the jokes about Alabama taking a 3-star quarterback from SMU, they have suddenly gone the way of the dinosaur. You don't see them anymore. Last Thursday, Russell won the Elite 11 Finals MVP award out in California. The Duncanville, Texas Star stood atop the 20-man field at the Elite 11 Finals in Manhattan Beach with 3 days of high-level play. He shined in on 7-on-7. He shined in the workouts. His ball placement accuracy was top-notch. You don't win this thing unless you're outstanding. And now he'll be in line, I would think, after winning the Elite 11, Rodney, to become a 5-star prospect.
You know, he does some amazing things. I mean, he really does. You see the snap delivery that he has there. The ball comes out. He can throw it from different arm angles extremely well and accurate, Gary. He's got all kinds of ability. Physically, in terms of his athleticism, is amazing. He moves around extremely well. He's a guy that, as good as he is right now, I think he's just scratching his potential.
We mentioned this last week. Tua won it as an Alabama commit, and so did Julian Sayin and Blake Barnett. Those two, Blake Barnett transferred out, and Julian Sayin's already at Ohio State. But past winners also include Andrew Luck, Trevor Lawrence, C.J. Stroud, Justin Fields. So, you know, it's a pretty big deal to win this thing, Rodney, and it kind of sets you up. Also, let's mention this real quickly. He is become, as quarterbacks often do, he has become a big-time recruiter for Alabama.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned how important it is to win the Elite 11. I think when you win it like that, it enhances you as a recruiter. I mean, when he's talking to guys like whether it's DeCorian Moore, Khalid Lockett, Caleb Cunningham, these great receivers, I mean, they respond to that. So I think that's really been a big part of it. Not only receivers now, offensive linemen, defensive players.
I remember Tua specifically after he won it. became kind of a lead recruiter for Alabama.
Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith, Henry Ruggs.
Yeah, receivers want to play with the Elite 11 MVP, that's for sure. All right, still to come on Tider Insider TV. Last night, Tennessee won its first national championship in college baseball. So the question now is Alabama falling even further behind in the SEC? We'll examine that. And how will revenue sharing, paying players directly from university athletic departments, affect college sports? Alabama AD Greg Byrne weighs in on the impact of that. Coming up next. And we'll be getting your phone calls, emails, and tweets in just a little bit. As always, that phone number, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882, area code 205. We'll be getting your phone calls and emails in just a little bit. This is the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. Going on 25 years. Tider Insider TV will return right after this. Another SEC National Championship in baseball. A&M and Tennessee went to 3 games. There's the final out as Tennessee's Aaron Combs strikes out Ted Burton to end it. Vols win Game 3 6-5 for their first national title. 60 wins, which is a magic number in college baseball. Not many programs have done it. And head coach Tony Vitello, after his first year when they didn't make it, Tennessee had missed the NCAA tournament 13 straight years. Now you could say that they're the dominant program in the SEC, which means you're the dominant program in the country. The only thing they hadn't done was win the national championship. Now they've done that. Aggies finished second. They'll be still looking for their first. So welcome back into TITV, brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Tony Vitello's quick turnaround. I say quick turnaround. After his first year wasn't too good, but after that, they had a couple great teams that kind of like Alabama basketball didn't make it, didn't win it. But then he wins it this year, and now that's going to kind of be more pressure on a program like Alabama. I hate to say it, but that's your rival. 25 years since Alabama's been to the College World Series. Rob Vaughn, first year in, had some good moments. They kind of ran out of gas there at the end. Does this ramp up the pressure even more on Alabama? There's not many programs in the SEC right now that have been longer between trips to the College World Series than the Crimson Tide right now.
Yeah, look, I don't really see it ramping up the pressure, Gary. I tell you, I think, again, it's Rob Vaughn's first year. They did a fantastic job. They're building the program. You've got the portal now. Makes it a lot, I'm not going to say easier, but it gives you an opportunity to really catch up even more quickly, I think, with that portal. So, again, I don't think it's really necessarily ramped up the pressure.
Even Kentucky made it to the College World Series this year. So, you do want to see Alabama get back. I'm with you, though, like Rob Vaughn, and I think he's going to get it done. Of course, you get it done by adding talent. That's the biggest charge right now for Rob Vaughn and his staff. And Alabama has picked up 3 more players announced from the portal. On Saturday, Georgia Tech pitcher Aiden Finatieri announced his commitment to the Crimson Tide, 6-4 with 16 starts at Georgia Tech last year. He's a quality arm. On Saturday, Dartmouth catcher Nathan Shamela announced he's coming to Alabama. He batted .350 with 8 home runs. That's big. And Bryce Fowler from Pearl River Community College over in Mississippi committed to Alabama on Monday. Second team junior college All-American, .419 with 11 home runs, 25 stolen bases. So Alabama's adding talent, and that's the only way you're going to catch up in this league because everybody is loaded with talent. And now it's time for Coach Talk. Well, earlier this month, Alabama's Board of Trustees approved a renovation of the new basketball practice facility to the tune of nearly $60 million, and a brand new golf facility is already nearing completion. But Alabama Director of Athletics Greg Byrne, while proud of giving teams those types of resources at Alabama, says that the school and all the schools may be entering a wait-and-see mode on future projects due to where we're headed economically.
Now what we need to see is what's the new model of college sports look like. With the House litigation, you've probably seen some news out there about that. There's a potential significant financial commitment that we're going to have to make going forward to pay for everything. And so until we kind of know what that landscape is like, we need to make sure we're being conservative in our approach so we don't jeopardize the financial health of our department and the experience for all of our student athletes, coaches, fans, and the ability to put us in the best spot going forward.
Absolutely. That's just the new reality. You're going to be paying players from athletic departments. Byrne says that, it's not just Byrne. They're expected to have $22 million a year to spend on athletes at these high-level programs. Rodney, there's a chance now that the Big 12 and other conferences are looking at naming rights for their fields and stuff like that. Rodney, the reality of it is I think Alabama's a traditional athletics department. What I mean by that is they don't want to go corporate unless they have to. They don't want to have, logos on the uniforms. You know how they are about the uniforms around here. But at the same time, you're going to be forced to look at every possible revenue stream. That's just the reality of it.
And the one good thing is, Gary, when you have an athletic director that's on top of that is in touch with what's going on, the latest, the opportunities that are out there, and Alabama has that in Greg Byrne, there's no question that they'll be in good shape. All
right, we're going to get to the break, but when we come back, it's time for phone calls, emails, tweets. We want to hear from Tider Insider Nation. The phone number, as always, 205-348-9882. Let's get those phone calls in. Let's talk some Bama football, basketball, baseball, whatever is on your mind. That's what TITV is here for. We want to hear from you next. And we're back here on Tider Insider Television with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. And it's time for phone calls. And John over in Anniston is going to lead us off tonight. Hey, John.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Doing great, man.
The Alabama basketball assistant coach, Preston Murphy, he
Yep.
has a son that's in the transfer portal. I was wondering, have y'all heard anything about them bringing him in as a walk-on? Because I think that's important for them guys to be challenged in practice every day.
Yeah, John, I haven't, but I know he's been at the University of New Orleans. I know he's a guard. His dad is an assistant coach here at Alabama. I would think the fact that he's already been in a Division I program, Rodney, so you know he's a good player, and your dad's coaching here, and you can come in as a walk-on. I haven't heard that, but it certainly wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I haven't heard it either, but like you said, it wouldn't be a surprise. We've seen things like that happen before, but I like what he said, though, Gary, about having players that challenge players in practice.
Absolutely.
And with his experience, I think that would be good.
Of course, when I think if you look at that roster,
they're going to be challenged.
I think that first five is going to be challenged a lot by that second five. Let me just tell you. They had the
2 top 20 teams.
Yeah, a lot of talent there. Yeah, Alabama's second team might finish in the top 25 the way it's going. All right, let's get to Rick over in Brent. Hey, Rick. Rick, you with us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, and I got you. Pot him up a little bit. I can hear him a little bit. Go ahead, Rick.
Why in the world would Riley Griffin leave Alabama when we make it to the Final Four and he starts, and then we're the #1 team in the nation for next year? It boggles my mind.
Well, it does a lot of people, but this is the NIL era. Also, you got to remember now he's going to Kansas. And as good as Alabama is, I mean, Alabama just made it to its first Final Four. Kansas got multiple national championships. And I do think that this is something he looked at doing last offseason, and he didn't go. And to be honest with you, as much as people love playing in Nick Saban, they love playing in his system. People love playing in Nate Oates' system. I think Rylan Griffin had some people in his ear saying, listen, your strength is the mid-range game. Mm-hmm. That's not what they do at Alabama. So I think there are a number of reasons. I wish him well. He helped lead Alabama to a Final Four, but Alabama's roster is going to be fine.
Yeah, and you talked about the system there, Gary, that you might have hit on something where he felt confident, comfortable in that system. Maybe he felt like that was the best for his future.
All right, thanks for the phone calls. When we come back, more phone calls and emails to get to on this edition of Tider Insider TV. It's hot outside, but we're keeping cool in here with TITV. We'll be right back. Former Alabama softball associate head coach Alyson Habetz, who retired after last season, after the 2023 season, to be with her mom down in Louisiana, stayed retired about 10 months as she is accepting the head coaching job at her alma mater, the University of Louisiana. She was a raging Cajun athlete and a good one. She's now going to be the head coach. Of course, she helped Coach Murphy and staff in 25 years on staff win 11 SEC titles combined, tournament and regular season. Go to the NCAA World Series, Women's College World Series 14 times, and of course win a national title back in 2012. So congratulations to Coach Habetz. And we're back here, and we're going to get to our email question of the day. And our email question of the day is brought to you by KDM Service Corporation. When it comes to heating and air conditioning, KDM Service Corporation serves your family like our family. All right, let's get to that email question today. It's from Marvin in Inslee. Do you believe that Ryan Williams will return punts? Marvin, I do. I'll just say, yeah, I do. Now, listen, Mbakwe's coming in. He can return them. They got some other guys on the team that are electric too, but I can't imagine if I'm Keelon Russell and staff, I want to get the football in this guy's hands, and one way is to put him back there on punts and even kickoff returns.
I think you could see that, certainly. But I also think watch out for Jeremy Bernard, the transfer from Washington.
Yeah.
You know, he's got a lot of experience. He did that at Washington, was really good. So Jeremy will be a guy to watch as well.
All right, let's go out to Romulus and get a phone call in from our friend Tommy. Hey, Tommy, good evening. How are you? Tommy? I know he's there. Y'all bring him. No, he's there. I can hear him. Bring him up. Okay. Don't know what happened. Tommy, you there?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Tommy. Y'all got to bring him up a little bit.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I want to give Rodney a shout out. I attended his testimony a week ago with him and Ron Fowler and Martin Houston. He did an excellent job. It's an honor to know him and meet him. Can our baseball program catch up with the scholarship number? Since we're doing so well in football and baseball, can we get into that?
All right, Tommy. Great phone call. You know, we touched on a little bit. Alabama is behind, but I think that the NIL is actually going to help. And if they start paying players, that's going to, because the scholarship disparity right now between Alabama and Auburn and the rest of the league that have, gambling money to put toward Hope scholarships and so forth, or whatever they want to call them, it really is a gap. I think this gap could be narrowed now with some of the new rules.
Yeah, that's a great point. With that NIL, it certainly could. And thank you, Tommy. I appreciate your comments.
All right. Thanks for that phone call. Thanks for the emails as well. We're going to come back with more TITV. We'll do that right after this message here on WVUA 23. It's camp time in June and July, and incoming freshman wide receiver. Well, this is actually the Grant Nelson camp right here. This is Grant Nelson holding a basketball camp on Sunday. Over 100 campers came out to Tuscaloosa County High School. He is just an outstanding young man and wanted to give back to the community, he told us. And also you had Ryan Williams and Justice Haynes, as I alluded to, doing a football camp on Saturday at Hillcrest. Rodney, I love this. Of course, let's be honest, this is the NIL era, so they can profit from their camps, but it's also an opportunity to be around these kids. They look up to these guys, so it's kind of a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, years and years, you had a lot of these players in the communities. Gary, a lot of kids in the community, they never had this opportunity to meet these players up close. I think it's a great opportunity.
All right, and there'll be more of those camps coming up this summer. You can find them on social media. We'll try to announce as many of them as we can. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Visit Tuscaloosa. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. A reminder that if you missed any of the show, you can catch a replay tonight at 10:30 or find it online anytime at WVUA23.com. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll be back next week with more TITV right here on WVUA 23.